Hi everyone and welcome to our main news video. As usual, we're going to give you a detailed run-through of the changes in the RF regulatory sector globally, and if you have any questions about the topics covered, please get in touch.
So first up from the APAC region, Vietnam's regulator MIC have this month officially released Circulars 10 and 11 2020. Circular 10, which comes into effect on the 1st of July this year, brings some major changes to the certification methods for RF products in the Group 2 category, which is those products subject to both SDOC and type approval. Key changes brought by the circular includes MIC type approval can now be issued directly to foreign manufacturers. Foreign manufacturers are now allowed to sign their own self-assessment declaration of conformity for the PQIR import process. New certification routes have been introduced depending on whether or not the product in question has been manufactured in an ISO 9001 certified factory or not. So the certification system number 1 applies to products manufactured in ISO 9001 certified factories. Sample testing is required and certificates granted under that system are valid for 3 years. Certification system 5 is applicable to products manufactured in factories without ISO 9001. Sample testing required still, and factory inspection also. Certificates are valid for 3 years, though an annual factory audit is required to maintain the certificate's validity. There's also certification system 7, which is used for consignment level approvals only. The certificate granted under this system are valid for a single product consignment. Note that there is no need to update your existing certificates. These will retain their validity even after the changes come into force. Circular 11 2020 also comes into effect on the 1st of July and updates the list of devices subject to MIC type approval and SDOC. Some of the key changes brought by this circular includes the addition of newly introduced technical regulations QCVN 86-2019 and QCVN 119-2019. The addition of terminal devices, base stations and repeaters used in 5G cellular networks to the list. Wireless inductive loop chargers, telemetry instruments, MISC and MITS medical devices, 60 GHz band devices, maritime radar and wireless digital video transmission devices have been moved to the list of products subject to the mandatory declaration of conformity only. And there's also exemption of certain test items from the national technical regulations. For a complete list of the changes, or if you have any questions, then please email me. I'm aware that there have been a lot of changes in Vietnam recently and over the coming months, and that the process there is relatively complicated anyway, so I'll do a separate video explaining the requirements and process with Vietnam later this month.
Now on to Malaysia, where they are continuing with steps towards the rollout of 5G, and the Malaysian Technical Standards Forum have released a draft technical specification for IMT 2020 for 5G usage. As a reminder, back in January this year, the Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commission, or MCMC, issued a final report identifying 700 MHz, 3.4 to 3.6 GHz, and 24.9 to 28.1 GHz for 5G rollout. The public consultation relating to the proposal remains open until the 18th of June 2020. A link to the draft specification, as well as details on how to submit comments, can be found on the attachment to this video.
We also have an update from Vanuatu, where regulator TRBR have released the Regulation General User Radio License Guidelines for the National Type Approval Framework and short-range radio communications devices. This guideline confirms the technical standards permitted frequencies and output power levels for an updated list of SRD technologies. It's worth noting that type approval regulations were already in place in Vanuatu before the publication of the guidance. However, before now, there was no written guidelines to follow. The type approval process in Vanuatu is paperwork only, and the national requirements are in line with the EU.
And moving on to the LATAM region now. On the 5th of May 2020, Brazilian regulator Anatel issued Resolution 726, an amendment to Resolution 680 on restricted radiation radio communication equipment. The new resolution will come into effect on the 1st of September 2020. Resolution 726 brings a number of changes, including the opening of a number of frequency bands which currently have usage restrictions in place in Brazil. Among these bands, 5,850 to 5,925 MHz, 57 to 71 GHz, and 76 to 81 GHz for radar systems have had usage restrictions lifted, assuming equipment complies with the national regulation. For a copy of the regulation governing these bands, please get in touch.
In Argentina, regulator ENACOM have published Resolution 461/2020 extending the validity of certain type approval certificates due to the ongoing impact of COVID-19. This replaces ENACOM's previous Resolution 326, which applied to certificates expiring between the 16th of March and the 16th of May this year. Resolution 461 confirms that type approval certificates with an expiration date between the 16th of March and the 30th of June will now automatically be extended by 60 days. ENACOM have launched a system to automatically display the validity extensions of those approval certificates, and manufacturers now have an additional 60 days to obtain their renewal certificates in Argentina.
Also, as a result of the difficulties brought about by the global COVID-19 pandemic, Chilean regulator Subtel has postponed the implementation of the updated certification protocol for 2020. The certification applications that are compliant with the previous process will continue to be accepted until further notice from Subtel. We will continue to monitor changes and will keep customers updated as to when the new requirements will come into force. Key to note is that once the regulation does come into force, test reports must show the model number to be approved by Subtel, and Subtel will also no longer accept modular test reports for host level approval.
We also have a few updates from Mexico this month. Regulator IFT have published a new conformity assessment procedure for telecommunications products in the Mexican Official Gazette. The new requirements will enter into force on the 25th of February 2021. A summary of the most relevant points are as follows. Holders of NYCE RF certificates of conformity must now obtain the corresponding IFT approval certificate. If not, then both certificates will be cancelled. COCs and test reports can no longer be transferred, which means that each importer must obtain their own NYCE RF COC and IFT approval. 4 certification schemes have been introduced according to the needs of the importer and to improve market surveillance depending on the product or the product category assigned. The schemes are single batch, single module and surveillance, family of products and surveillance, or telecommunications and broadcasting devices and surveillance. There are still discussions happening around the full scope of this new conformity assessment procedure between IFT and the industry, specifically around the subject of the approval holder and leveraging of approval certificates. But we'll keep you updated on that.
Additionally, the Mexican Secretariat of Economy have postponed the implementation of the Mexican Safety Standard NOM 001 until the 14th of August this year, to enable more time for enough labs and certification bodies to become accredited and to adequately meet the demand for this new standard. By way of reminder, NOM 001 expands the product scope and removes the current 24-volt exemption for NOM safety in Mexico. The standard applies to electronic equipment and accessories such as power supply units and introduces more rigorous local testing depending on the equipment type. That's all for this month. And as I said, if you have any questions, then please do get in touch.